When you read this sentence, Harry Potter waved his wand, you know it's not true. Harry Potter isn't real. His wand doesn't exist. And yet, when you read fiction, nobody calls it lying. But what if I told you they do? And what if they're right? Is fiction actually lying? Well, let's start with what seems obvious. Fiction is not lying because everyone knows it's fictional. When you open a novel, there's an implicit understanding this is make-believe. The author isn't trying to deceive you about reality. A lie requires intent to deceive. If I tell you something false believing it's true, that's a mistake. If I tell you something false intending to deceive you, that's a lie. But fiction is openly false. It's honest about being dishonest. Seems straightforward. So what's the problem? Well, philosophers have been wrestling with this since Plato. In ancient Greece, Plato actually criticized poets and storytellers. He thought they were dangerous because they made false claims about the world and presented them as if they were true. Plato wasn't wrong exactly. Fiction does represent things as true. When a novel says it was a dark and stormy night, it's representing the existence of a night that was dark and stormy within the fictional world. The question becomes, is representing something as true the same as claiming it's true? And if it's not quite claiming it, is it still a kind of lying? Here's where modern philosopher Gregory Curry comes in. Curry argues that fiction works through what he calls fictive intent. An author writes with the intention that we make believe the story, and crucially, we recognize that this is the author's intention. So when you read Harry Potter waved his wand, you're not being lied to. You're being invited to participate in a game of make-believe. You recognize the invitation, and you accept it. Think of it like a child pretending a banana is a telephone. They're not trying to deceive you. They're inviting you into their imaginative game. And once you accept that invitation, the banana really is a telephone. In that context, in that make-believe world. But here's where it gets interesting. Some fiction is designed to deceive you, at least temporarily. In a mystery novel, the author deliberately holds back information. They might even mislead you with a false clue. Is that lying within the make-believe game? Or consider an unreliable narrator, a character telling the story who you later discover has been lying the whole time. Fight Club, Gone Girl, The Sixth Sense. The author used the make-believe agreement to set up a deception. They're not deceiving you about reality, but they are deceiving you within the fictional framework. Now consider this, a novel presents itself as historical fiction. All the light we cannot see takes place during World War II with real historical events and places. Most of it is invented. Are those inventions lies? The author isn't claiming to be writing history. They're writing fiction. But they're using the appearance of truth, real places, real historical events, to add credibility to their invented characters and plot. And then there are films based on a true story. They often invent dialogue, compress timelines, even add entirely fictional characters. But they present themselves as truthful accounts. Is that lying? Or just storytelling? This is where the definition gets slippery. According to Curry's theory, a work is fiction if the author intends that we make believe it, and if the work happens to be true, it's only accidentally true. That second part is interesting. A novel could coincidentally describe real events accurately, but if the author wasn't relying on that truth, if the truth plays no causal role in the work existing, it's still fiction. Imagine an author writes a novel about a secret government conspiracy. Years later, that conspiracy is revealed as real. Did the author lie? They weren't relying on truth. They were making it up. But they happened to describe something real. Most of us would say that's not lying. But they were making false claims about the real world, even if those claims turned out to be accidentally true. Here's something even more troubling. Novels often shape how people understand history. The Name of the Rose introduced millions of readers to medieval monasteries, but many of its details are invented. All the Light We Cannot See shaped popular understanding of World War II through fictional characters and situations. So fiction shapes people's beliefs about reality, even though it's not claiming to be true. Isn't that a kind of deception? Some novels have been criticized for promoting harmful ideas. These works presented false narratives. Narratives designed to create false beliefs about real groups of people. They hid behind the "it's just fiction" defense while promoting real-world hatred. Were they lying? They were certainly being deceptive about reality, even if the consumer understood it wasn't literally true. But here's something philosophers often miss. Fiction can contain truths. To Kill a Mockingbird presents fictional characters in a fictional town, but its truths about racism, justice, and human nature are completely genuine. The invented story is a vehicle for real insights. Dostoevsky wrote novels with invented characters and situations, but the psychological truths about human nature in his work are profound and real. So fiction presents false information, invented characters, made-up events, in order to convey true information about human nature, society, morality, That's not lying in any conventional sense. That's art. So is fiction lying? The answer depends on what we mean by lying. If lying requires deceiving someone about reality, then fiction, which is transparent about being invented, is not lying. But if lying also includes presenting false claims in a way designed to influence what people believe, then some fiction could be considered a form of lying, even if the audience knows it's fiction. The real insight is that fiction operates in a strange category. It's neither true nor false in the ordinary sense. It's make-believe, and make-believe is a unique form of communication. Philosopher Kendall Walton pointed out something remarkable. When you're reading fiction, you don't just entertain false propositions. You actually engage emotionally as if they were true. When you read about Frodo's danger in The Lord of the Rings, you feel real fear, even though you know Frodo isn't real. Your emotions are responding to fiction as if it were reality. So fiction isn't just presenting false information. It's creating an imaginative space where certain cognitive and emotional responses are appropriate, even though you know it's invented. That's not a lie. That's something stranger and more interesting. It's a form of communication that operates outside the truth-false binary altogether. In a Sudanese folktale tradition, storytellers say, "I'm going to tell you a story. It's a lie. But not everything in it is false." Maybe that's more honest than anything else. Is fiction lying? The answer is both yes and no, and that paradox is exactly why fiction matters. Fiction is neither lie nor truth, it's make-believe. And make-believe is how humans have always understood the world, through stories that may be false but contain truths we couldn't express any other way. And when you think about it, isn't that more interesting than simple truth-telling? Thanks for watching.